എഫിലാണല്ലേ പോയില്ലേ?
ഹലോ, ഓഡിബിൾ അല്ലേ? ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ.
Hello, sir.
ഹലോ സാറേ, നമുക്ക് തുടങ്ങിയാലോ? വിനോദ് സർ.
Yes, sir.
ഓക്കെ. താൻസൺ.
Yeah.
ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ. വിനോദ് സാറേ, ലൈറ്റിന്റെ ചെറിയൊരു ഇഷ്യൂ ഉണ്ടോ എന്നൊരു ഡൗട്ട് ഉണ്ട്. ഹലോ
സാറേ ഇപ്പോഴോ?
ആ കുറച്ചും കൂടി നമുക്കൊന്ന് കൂട്ടാൻ പറ്റുമോ?
നോക്കട്ടെ.
ആ ഓക്കെ 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 ഓക്കെ.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Ma'am, good morning. Sorry.
So, good morning, all. Let's start our webinar. So, it's very happy that 236 students are there with us for this webinar. So, first of all, I request Joseph Sir, Associate Professor Joseph Paul of School of Computer Science PG, DePaul Institute of Science and Technology, to provide the welcome speech.
Hello. I think I am audible, right? So warm good morning to one and all. It is indeed a proud moment for DIST to host a two-day webinar on the topic career, computers and COVID, confusion to clarity. So my duty and responsibility is to welcome the dignitaries for this webinar. So first of all, I would like to welcome our beloved principal, Dr. Unni CJ, who will be inaugurating the webinar today. So on behalf of all gathered here, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our beloved principal, Dr. Unni CJ. Next, we have with us one of the relevant person, expert in this area, Mr. Vinod Rajan. He is working as value catalyst and global program manager, values and culture at UST Global. He is having 14 years of industry experience playing multiple roles such as senior business analyst, business consultant in India and USA. Of course, he is the apt person for taking a webinar regarding this topic. So I would like to extend a warm welcome to Vinod sir. We have with us Mr. Tansan Palaseri. We are really happy to say that he is our alumni and he was with us in the 2015 pass out batch. Currently, he is working as the senior software engineer, UST Global. I also hereby welcome Mr. Tansen for giving us his views and ideas regarding this topic. Welcome, Tansen. Now, I would like to invite our principal for the inaugural speech of two-day webinar session.
Good morning, everybody. Resource persons, Mr. Vinod Rajan and Mr. Tansan Parlacheri, Head of the Department of School of Computer Science PG, Mr. Joseph Paul, and coordinator of this webinar, Ms. Amrita Muralidharan, and dear participants. I'm very happy to be part of this two-day webinar on the topic career, computers and COVID, confusion to clarity, organized by the School of Computer Science PG in DePaul Institute of Science and Technology. The topic gets its relevance in the background of the apprehensions among the students and those who are working in the IT industry in the background of the pandemic that is spreading within the country and around the globe these days. But I, for one, do feel that IT industry is the one which was least affected by the pandemic because of the possibilities for work from home and a new normal of work from home culture has evolved throughout the world. India being one of the top providers of IT services to the world and having such a lot of large IT companies will benefit from the COVID impact because industries look toward large units for continuity of services or continuity of business. I'm sure that we have got two resource persons, Mr. Vinod Rajan and Mr. Thansen Pallasheri, one of our alumni, who will be able to elaborate on this topic, which will be beneficial for you. With these words, I formally inaugurate the two-day webinar, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Uni sir, and thank you, Joseph sir, for the inaugural address and welcome speech. Okay, so we know we have our best personality, Mr. Vinod Rajan, with us, who is Value Catalyst and Global Program Manager at UST Global, and our dear alumni, Tanson, who is currently working as Senior Software Engineering at UST Global. So we will look at forward them. So Vinod sir, we can begin our webinar. So hand over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amrita ma'am, for the introduction, and particularly thanking the principal sir and Joseph sir for this wonderful opportunity, and thanking all the members of the DPOL Institute. I think it's an honor and privilege to address all of you in this short time period. Before we get started, I'll first start my screen sharing. And Amrita ma'am, just confirm when you can see the screen.
Sir, it's visible.
Excellent, excellent. So before we get started, couple of requests to all the attendees. One, keep in mind, since I'm sharing the screen, I won't be able to see the chat window or the camera, etc., etc. So if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat window, and Amrita Miss or Joseph sir will be able to put that to you. I'll just quickly go through the presentation, and definitely we can have a question and answer session towards the end. Feel free to ask as many questions as you want. We'll be happy to answer as much as possible. So, Amrita ma'am and Joseph sir, with your permission, though you have given a pretty colorful introduction about myself, I'm going to give a very realistic introduction of myself and Tansen. Hope that is okay, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
sure.
Yes.
With pleasure,
It's okay.
So this is a realistic introduction. Okay. Hope people who are attending the session, the students, would have got the message. So the reason why we wanted to set the reason why we wanted to set this tone for this meeting like this is, keep in mind, though we have spent considerable time in the industry, we have gone through what you are going through right now. We have come from a very rural background. We were, both of us, I am talking on behalf of Tansen as well, and Tansen, feel free to pitch in. We were pretty average students in our school and college days. We were not the so-called rank holders. And of course, we had our own share of enough number of supplies or arrears or back papers in our college days. And towards the last year or the last semester, all of us had our own share of concerns and worries about what is going to be our future, etc., etc. So, of course, we might have had a little bit of experience in the industry than all of you, but we believe what is the most important credibility that we have is we are almost like your college seniors. We have gone through what you are going through right now. So don't treat us like somebody coming from another planet. We are just like all of you, and just treat us like maybe what you would have done with your college seniors. So we are here to help you. Feel free to shoot your questions. Feel free to raise your concerns. With whatever limited knowledge and experience we have, we'll be happy to share our thoughts. Now, with that, just a legal disclaimer, that is, as you know, though I am extremely happy and proud that DPOL Institute is providing me an opportunity to present this, and also whatever I'm presenting is mostly based on my experience working with UST Global for the last 14 years. Whatever I'm presenting is my my experiences and opinions. It is purely my opinion. And the reason why I wanted to put this disclaimer is I definitely, if at all I end up telling something incorrect, I don't want either my company or DePaul Institute to get into trouble. So, and just keep in mind, whatever you're going to hear in the next 1.5 hours today and tomorrow, these are just my opinions. So feel free to take it in that sense. And a couple of requests to Amrita ma'am or Joseph sir. If you could give me like a time indication, say maybe every 30 minutes, that would be great. So that I'll have an idea about the time indication. You could just unmute and give an indication because I won't be able to see the chat window. Also, throughout the session, if at any point in time, if there are valid questions which you think needs to be addressed, ma'am, feel free to interrupt me and ask those questions then and there.
Okay, sir. Okay, sure.
Great. Okay, thank you. So thank you. And particularly thank you all for your presence. We know that all of you had a lot of things to do at your own personal and education life. You would have spent this time talking to your friends, or maybe spending time with your family, or maybe even learning something, or watching videos, or playing games, or even taking some rest, and you decided to spend time in this session. So we, both myself and Tansen, are thankful to you for making that choice. So the whole session is divided, as you know, into 3 parts. One is career, the second one is the specific to IT career, and the third one is going to be the IT career in the COVID context. And that is going to be, most probably we'll be covering it in tomorrow. So today we are going to cover the career part in general, maybe 20 to 30% of the time. The rest of the time we are going to focus specifically on the IT career choices. And we will maybe stop today somewhere in between. And tomorrow, then we will start from where we completed, and we are going to cover the rest of the IT career part and definitely the COVID specific nuances. So the first part is the topic. Why we thought of picking this topic is, if you look at it, all of you are going through now 3 levels of confusion, or what we call as a 3-layered confusion. First and foremost, keep in mind, everybody, people who are currently doing their education, and your parents, and maybe your grandparents, would have gone through the same set of confusions, 3 levels of confusions in their career. So definitely after their education, if you look at it, maybe if you talk to your parents or grandparents, the fashion or the trend was to look for government jobs. And then what happened is, when it came to maybe my generation, then the fashion became going for engineering or medicine. And now if you look at it, the trend or the fashion is like startup or entrepreneurship. So, of course, there are a set of people who follow this trend. There are a set of people who do not want to follow this trend. And there are all sorts of confusion. So typically for people who are going through their teenage time period, particularly in their graduation time period, there is definitely going to be a confusion about their career. Now, interestingly, most of you have opted for a course on computers or IT. And if you are picked up a course on computer or IT, whether it is BCA, MCA, BSc Computer Science, MSc Computer Science, BTech, BE, MTech, ME, or even MCOM or BCOM on computer applications, I'm sure you would have heard this points maybe from your auntie or uncle asking, and I'm sure from Charles Babbage to Bill Gates, or maybe Sundar Pichai would have heard the same comment from their uncle or auntie. Are you mad to select an IT course? The IT period is over. Now there is no going to be IT and all. The hype is over. And if you go and take an IT course, you are definitely not going to get a job after the course. And I'm sure all of you in the call would have heard the same confusion. Now, on top of this, and Joseph sir, I didn't mean to, I'm definitely not referring to you, but I don't know whether you have said the same, but I'm sure my college has said the same. And it is on a lighter note, that is what almost every branch HOD says. So there was a confusion. Everybody who goes through their graduation plus their teenage life goes through a confusion about their life and career. And that confusion is even more complex when it comes to people who pick up any education course on computers. Now, to make it even more complicated, we have something called COVID. And people are saying that there is going to be financial meltdown, there is going to be recession, all the IT companies are going to close down, IT industry is going to collapse after COVID, there will not be any campus recruitments after COVID, etc., etc. Now, the point I wanted to tell you is keep in mind, it is absolutely okay to be confused. It is absolutely okay to be frustrated, because most of these problems are not something you guys have created. You just ended up into this situation. And it is absolutely okay to be confused. It is absolutely okay to be frustrated. It is absolutely okay if you do not know what your future is. And so that is exactly why we thought we will have the session to bring some clarity. Now, just in case if you thought after the session you are going to get absolutely perfect clarity about what you are going to do in your career, what is going to happen to your life, your job, etc., etc., that is wrong. And the reason is the world, what we call right now, is called what people, the industry experts call it as VUCA world. Maybe you would have heard this term before in several other places, because the current world which we live in have 4 unique characters. One is volatility, second one is uncertainty, third one is complexity, and fourth one is ambiguity. What we mean by volatility is there are a lot of things going on here and there, and there are a lot of things changing on a very frequent basis. And when it comes to uncertainty, nobody has a clue what is happening. Nobody has a clue what is going to happen 6 months down the line, 10 years down the line, and so on. And complex means there are a lot of things happening. There are political issues happening in different parts of the world. There are companies closing down, companies making a lot of money. There are all sorts of issues happening there. So, and there are a lot of changes happening on the technology front. So there are a lot of things happening as we speak. The last one is ambiguity. You may have multiple career options in front of you, but when you try to evaluate that, it may look very similar, and you may not be able to figure out what is the right option. Okay, having said all this, what is the answer? What is the solution? The solution is nothing but enjoy that confusion. So I do not want to paint a very fancy picture or give you any kind of false promises to any of you and say that maybe this is just a temporary problem and a couple of days or weeks down the line, everything is going to be perfect and you are going to get absolute clarity and everything is going to be perfect. I do not want to set that wrong expectation, because the world, now your life is going to be like this. Unfortunately, there will be a lot of changes, there will be a lot of confusions, there will be a lot of unexpected things happening around us, in and around us, which will have an impact on us as well. So there is no point in fighting back, there is no point in getting frustrated about it. All you can do is now is to go with the flow, what people call. So what we are going to do in the next 1 hour or so today, and maybe tomorrow another 1.5 hours, is to help you to give some tips and tricks purely based on our personal experiences from the industry on how can you manage the situation. Despite the fact that all these complexities are happening around the world, still, what are a few things that you can do from your end to ensure that you are slightly ahead of others in the industry when it comes to a competition for the job? So this is at a high level that we want to set as the expectation. So basically, just to recap, we are going to cover this into 3. First, we will talk in general about career, how to pick the right career, etc., etc. Second one, maybe the rest of the time we are going to focus a lot of time on the IT career, and then we are going to bring the COVID related confusions into the whole equation. And that is what we are going to cover tomorrow. So basically this is split into the three parts. So I'll pause here, and maybe Joseph sir or ma'am, any questions came so far, or am I audible? Is the video clear? Is the speed okay? Anything, any comments, corrections, anything to be changed or adjusted? All good so far? Hello?
Brother Danson here. I believe it is good and we can go.
Great, excellent. Thank you. No problem. Okay. So, how to pick a right career path? I don't know if any of you have heard this word called ikigai. It's a Japanese word. And maybe if you have attended any career counseling sessions or webinars before, or any trainings before, maybe the trainer would have taken you through this concept. It's a very well-known, industry-renowned concept, and a very simple concept. If you can understand this concept, you will have an idea about what you can do in your life and what you can do in your career. So give me 1 second. Okay, so what you see right now on the screen, this is ikigai. And what we mean by ikigai is what you see in the center. That is what your ideal job which you need to pick. And what is the attributes of that ideal job? It should have 4 characteristics. What you do is something you love, you enjoy doing it. That is something you are really good at. And of course, that is something the world needs, which means there are enough job opportunities in the market. And of course, you get enough money to take care of your needs. So basically, whatever you really love, whatever you are passionate about, and whatever you are really good at, plus whatever there are enough needs in the world where there is a good job market, and of course there is enough payment or financial benefits available. So if you can ensure that all these, if you can identify something which meets all these characters, then you are in the best career. Now, let's see what would happen if we don't have all these things, okay? If one of this is missed out. So for example, imagine we are somewhere here. Hope you can see the mouse cursor moving. Imagine we are somewhere here where this is something you love, this is something you are really good at, and you get good money. But the problem is you don't know whether the world needs it. So the problem there is, one, you may feel a so-called uselessness to what you do, and two, most importantly, you may not know about your future. Maybe tomorrow you may not have this job. Likewise, imagine you have something here as where you get paid for it, there is enough need in the market, and you are also really good at it. But you don't love what you do. So then the problem is you are really comfortable, you are confident about your future, you are really good at it, and you get enough money. But since you don't love what you do, the problem there is you feel a so-called emptiness. You don't feel like getting up every day morning and rushing to the office. That is the second category. Now the third one, if you look at it, here, you really, if you look at this part, this overlaps your love, your lead, and what you are getting paid for, which means you really love what you do. The world has got enough job opportunities available, and you are also getting paid well. But what if you are not competent in that area? So what would happen is, again, you get excited, but the problem is you have an uncertainty because you are not competent in that. you again may be thrown out of the job maybe tomorrow. The fourth one, if you have all these three, you are really good at it, and there is enough opportunity in the world, and definitely you love what you do. Then the problem, of course, the benefit is you are extremely happy about what you do. You feel a delight, you feel happy. Only problem is you won't be able to take care of your financial needs. That is, you won't be able to take care of, generate any wealth. Now, ideally, if all of you are able to think through and do this. So basically, if you look at it, right, this is very simple. Whatever you see here, the four, that is what you are good at and what you love. That is about you. What you are good at means those are your strengths and your weaknesses. So take time and think through what are your strengths and weaknesses. There are a few things which you may be really good at. There are certain things which you may not be really good at. So for example, maybe you may be really good at the designing part. Maybe your color combinations, artistic skills, etc. may be really good. But you may not be really good in logic. On the other side, maybe there would be another person who may be really good in their logic, but their artistic skills, color sense, aesthetic skills, etc. may be not that great. So that is how you look at and evaluate yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Then also look at what you love. What are the things you enjoy doing versus what are the things you hate doing? A very simple example is, if you are not a powerful communicator, you will not be able to become a teacher or a trainer or a lecturer or a professor, because you need to stand in front of maybe 50 or 100 students and talk for a long period of time. And you need to ensure that the people sitting in front of you clearly understands you. Or maybe let's take another example. Say, if you are an introvert, if you are someone who's very shy, then maybe sales and marketing may not be an area which you may be able to do a good job, because you being someone who's little bit shy and passive and introvert, you may not enjoy being in front of a lot of people and interacting with them. So that is how you look at what are your likes and dislikes and figure out your love, and also what are your strengths and weaknesses and figure out what are you are good at. Once you figure out these two, you will have a fair idea about where your passion is. Now, the next thing is, if you are able to do enough research about your industry by talking to people, by listening to sessions like the one which you are attending right now, like going to Google and searching about the industry, etc., you will have a fair idea about where the industry is going, which are the areas where there are a lot of jobs getting created, which are the areas where there are job opportunities going down. You will get a fair clarity about it. What you get paid for, again, once you have a fair idea about these three, what you're good at, what you love, and what are the industry needs, then the benefit is, once you start trying to apply for opportunities or do enough research about the industry, you will get a fair idea about which are the well-paid jobs in the industry versus which are the jobs where you may not get enough or good payment, which may meet your personal needs. So this is how ideally you need to pick the right career of your choice. And the reason why I spend this much time explaining this is, if you look at it, right? I mean, again, to give some funny, crazy examples, right? Say, if you are someone, say, one cliche point you would have always heard is, if you are someone who likes to travel a lot, people end up taking the air hostess job. Or maybe if you are a person who likes to dress up and use a lot of makeup, etc., people end up taking like fashion designing or fashion technology, etc. Unfortunately, as many of you would have understood, that is a wrong selection because, say, simple example, if you take up the role of a fashion designer, you should enjoy dressing up others or making others beautiful. If you try to dress up yourself and look handsome or look beautiful, whether you are a girl or a boy, and if you would like to dress yourself, then you should not look into fashion designing, but rather you should look into modeling. And I'm just giving a simple example. And there are like in the IT industry also, like there are a lot of examples. A very simple example is people who like to do animation, designing, etc., ends up joining in the IT companies. What would happen is typically in most of the IT companies, as you know, the work is heavily around programming, software engineering, etc. And ideally, the person would have joined a design company which or an advertisement company where the person who's artistic in nature can use his or her skills. So that is why you need to spend enough time understanding about you. You need to look at yourself. You need to look at and evaluate yourself and try to figure out who you are. What are the areas which are the areas you're really good at? Which are the areas you are not that great? Versus which are the areas you are really interested in versus which are the areas you hate doing. Then you do the research by talking to people, talking to your seniors, talking to your teaching staff, talking to your friends and colleagues, doing research by going on internet, etc., trying to understand about the industry and the financial side. That is how you figure out your ideal career path. And the only reason why I'm saying that, dear friends, is for a specific reason. Say, all of us, right, if you look at it, if we have to buy a smartphone, right, we typically spend weeks and months by comparing different models, their features, trying to go through their reviews, etc. Just for a smartphone, maybe like 10,000 rupees, and which maybe at the max we may use for a couple of years, we are spending weeks and months of effort researching and trying to figure out whether this is the best model or brand which I can use. And the same is applicable if you buy a computer, if you want to buy a house, or if you want to buy a vehicle, maybe a car or a two-wheeler, or even when you try to find your life partner. When you decide to get married, when you try to find your life partner, you also go through the same matchmaking process, where you try to first understand about yourself and then your life partner candidate, and then try to do a matching to see whether this matches. But 90% of the people, when it comes to the career, they will not spend enough time doing this kind of a research and self-assessment. And that is exactly why most people end up in wrong career choices, and most people end up getting frustrated at their job. So that is why my first request from the session is, please spend time, first of all, trying to understand yourself. And keep in mind, this is not going to be an easy process. It may take weeks and months because, one, you are at an evolving stage where you are at a teenage stage where you are transitioning from a teenager to an adult. So there will be a lot of changes in your character, your behavior, your maturity, your strengths and weaknesses, your likes and dislikes, etc. So it is going to be a tough process. It is going to be a time-consuming process, and it is going to be a confusing process. But I humbly request you to spend that time and try to understand about yourself, and then look at the industry. So once you are clear about what you want, then, hello? Hi. Hi, I think somebody is not on mute. If you could go on mute, that would be great. Okay. So thank you. Moving on. So the request I have for you is spend enough time trying to understand about yourself and trying to understand about your strength, weakness, likes and dislikes, and also then trying to understand what is available in the industry, and out of all the roles and options available in the industry, which are the ones which are best suitable for you. Okay, I'll pause again for a minute just to confirm whether anybody has got any questions or anyone who wants to maybe ma'am or sir, anything, or Tansen, anything to add, or am I audible? Is everything clear? Audio,
Yeah,
video?
correct. Yeah, everything is suitable, sir. And right now we are not having any question from the audience side.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
That is absolutely fine. To all the attendees in the call, keep in mind you are dedicating almost 3 hours of your precious time for this webinar. So it is absolutely important to ensure that you make the best use of this time. So feel free to shoot your questions. Preferably, you keep all the questions towards the end. At the end, during the Q&A session, we can ask all these questions. That is when Joseph sir and Ms. will help us on that. Moving to the next area. Again, having said all this, ideally, you know what? You need to you need to evaluate yourself. You need to find out what your career choices are. You need to know your passion. Fair enough. But we all know that life is not that simple. It may not always go as we planned. We may have our own personal challenges. We may have financial liabilities. We may have a family to take care of. We may have other problems like maybe an education loan or anything like that, because of which we may not be able to pursue our passion. Maybe you want to become an actor or a movie director, or you want to start your own company, or you want to start maybe a hotel, or you want to get into farming. But there is a probability that you have pressure from the society, maybe there are pressure from the family, etc., because of which you are not able to do this, which is fine. Again, the same message which I mentioned earlier, don't worry too much about all these things. This is just part of the life. Maybe right now, maybe you will join an IT company, and maybe you will ensure that you are financially stable. And then a couple of years down the line, maybe either you parallelly start another career with your passion, or maybe you may completely move out of that industry and maybe pursue your passion. So I'm sure many of you, exactly like many of you, are confused about your career. I'm sure maybe right now, or maybe a couple of months down the line, many of you may be disappointed as well, because you couldn't opt for maybe your best career alternative. That is okay, because why I say that is okay is the moment you start worrying about all those things, that will affect your personal life, that will affect your family life, and that will definitely affect your work as well. So don't worry too much, like the same old, keep calm, and hopefully there will be a time when you will be able to pursue your passion. Again, one anecdote that I always like to talk about is, many of you know the singer in a famous band called Agam. His name is Harish Shivaramakrishnan. Most of you from South India who's familiar with the band music, you know this person. Most of you may also know that he was a vice president of Google. Now he has moved to another company as a techie called CRUD, where he's a vice president. The interesting part is, if you listen to his interviews, he keeps both these career choices in parallel. He's actively working. I think somebody may need to go on mute. If you are not on mute, I request all of you to put yourself on mute. Okay, coming back. So there are people who are pursuing parallel career opportunities. And if you like listen to Harish Shivaramakrishnan, the interesting point he makes is he likes his job. He really enjoy his job because he's a technical person as well. He enjoy his job and he also enjoy music. So that is why he's able to manage both in parallel. And the benefit is he doesn't have to worry about his music career because he's getting a fixed salary from his job. He's able to take care of his family. So there are people who have multiple interests and multiple passions. And if that is the case, it is absolutely okay for you to have multiple career paths going in parallel. That is also fine. Now let us get into the IT career path. So what are the, before getting into the IT career path, let's just take 1 minute, maybe 30 seconds to understand about the industry. Not just the IT industry, but the global industry. So if you look at it, the whole world has gone through 4 industry revolutions, out of which 2 you would have already learned in your history classes in your school days. Around 1784 time, that is when the steam engine was invented and where the industry became lot of automated and mechanized. Then around 1870s, after around close to 100 years, that is when Industry 2.0 happened, where electricity was invented and assembly lines, mass production, etc. started evolving. Again, close to 100 years, Industry 3.0 happened. That is when the computers, electronics, chips, semiconductor, all those came into picture. Now, we are in the 4th stage of the industry revolution, which in people call it as Industry 4.0, which is where it is a lot about internet and Internet of Things, where there is data, all those things comes into place. And that is what Industry 4.0 is. Now, why we wanted you to have this context is keep in mind, this is how we have evolved as an industry, and this is the industry you are getting into. Now, having said the point which we talked about earlier, what are the choices that you have in your life? First choice or first question you need to ask yourself is whether you need a job or not. Say, for example, if you want to pursue higher education, maybe you don't need a job right now. Or maybe if you have other plans in your life, maybe take a break and do something or pursue your passion or something like that, you don't need a job. Or maybe if your family is financially well settled, maybe you don't need a job. And that is absolutely fine. But if at all you need a job, then what are the possibilities? The next question you need to ask yourself is, are you okay to work for another company or another individual or another boss, or you don't want to work for yourself? Now, keep in mind, this is one area where there is a danger comes into picture. I already told you, startup has now become a trend, a fashion. And one key reason people opt for startup is they think that if they start a startup, they have absolute freedom. They don't have to obey anyone, which is incorrect. Because, of course, if you start a startup, then there will be investors, there will be customers who will put pressure under you. So irrespective of what role you play, there definitely will be someone above us who's there to control you. If nothing is there, definitely there will be our parents or our life partner who's going to be there as our boss. So that is a myth, something which you need to keep in mind on a lighter note. Now, but if you want to become self-employed, what are the options? One, you start a single employee business. It could be an IT business. You could start a shop. You could do some business from home where you are the only employee and you don't have anyone else under you. The second option is you may be starting a family business, which is also fine. Maybe if you already have a family business, that is one area where you may want to focus on. The third one is you may think of having a startup, which means you may start a company and you may try to get people from your friends network, your batchmates, people whom you know. You may even hire people from other companies to be part of the startup, where it will be relatively a smaller company, but you are maybe the CEO or the MD or the boss of the company, and there will be a few people who will be playing key roles reporting to you. These are the options you have. Now, let's shift to the other area where we are going to focus heavily on. That is the employer-based sector, where you are going to a company or an organization and you are working for that particular organization. Again, if you divide that broadly, there is public sector and private. PSUs and all, like BSNL and State Bank of India, etc., which are very similar to private companies, but it has got the characteristics of a public sector organization or a government organization. And of course, other job options like civil service or getting into any other government job like police or etc., etc. There are umpteen number of job opportunities in the public sector through PSC and UPSC, etc. In the private sector, what you need to understand is basically there are two types of organizations. One is what we call as a non-corporate style organizations. The second one is a corporate style organizations. What we mean by a non-corporate organizations, maybe if you are going to work on a jewelry, or maybe a textile shop, or maybe a chit fund, or maybe you are an advocate in a law firm where there are like 20 or 30 advocates are there, and there is a senior advocate who manages the firm, etc., etc. The way they operate will be in a non-corporate way. What we mean by non-corporate way is they may not have a defined set of rules and policies and principles and practices and processes. They do it in their own custom way. And the point there is, it will be every private non-corporate organization will have a completely different way of functioning. So today you are maybe working in one particular organization, a private non-corporate. Tomorrow, when you go to another organization, you may feel that you are in a completely different world. That is because different organizations, they don't follow any standard processes and policies. Now, when it comes to corporate sector, there are again three types. One is the IT corporate organizations, which we'll explain in a minute. The second one is the non-IT corporate organizations, like say the new generation banks or the automobile companies or the mobile companies, etc., etc. If you look at it, they are not really, you know what, the mobile companies, I'll put it under hybrid mostly. But if you look at, say, a private sector bank, maybe like ICICI or Axis Bank, etc., etc. I'm just giving examples, okay? So if you look at these banks, they work like a typical corporate organization where they have a set of rules, principles, practices, etc. everywhere. Or very simple, better example is if you have gone to say McDonald's or Domino's Pizza or maybe etc. this restaurant chains or like Chickings, etc. You would interestingly realize that even the layout is exactly same everywhere. Now, so that is the non-IT corporate sector. Now let us come to the IT. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Joseph sir.
Yeah.
There was a power failure, so I just joined from my mobile phone. Am I audible?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's audible.
Okay. So what we will do is let's see if the power comes back. But by the until then, I'll join from my phone. Am I visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah, one request I have is while maybe we can take a couple of questions by that time, if you or Miss can share the presentation, that will be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. 1 second.
Sure. Meanwhile, I'll continue just in the interest of the time. So we were talking about. Give me 1 second, okay? Sorry for the trouble. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Great. Yeah, great. So we were talking about the corporate world where there are IT companies, non-IT companies, and the hybrid organizations. Hybrid organizations are like where, say, Airtel and Vodafone, etc. I'm just giving a simple example where their work involves both IT work and non-IT work, but they also follow a corporate practices and principles. Having said all this, now let's focus our attention to the IT world. Now, this is the part where I would like to spend a little time explaining a little further. What we mean by IT world is, this is something you need to have a very good clarity, okay? There are basically, again, I'm simplifying it for you. Actually, if you look at it, there are different ways to classify IT employers or IT companies. But in simple terms, there are 3 types of companies. That is the product companies, the service companies, and the platform organizations. So product, platform, services. That is the order. Now let's examine this one by one.
Sir, may I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Sir, could you please send the presentation?
I already sent it, ma'am. Send it, sir.
Samruddha, sorry for the interruption. Sir, I didn't get any mail from you.
Okay. Then give me 1 second.
Okay, so at that time I can provide one question is there from our student. How can we overcome the challenges that we face in the IT career?
Okay.
Once again, I read the question. How can we overcome the challenges that we face in the IT career?
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for asking that question. Excellent question. We'll definitely come to the answer in a minute. But before that, let me sort out the presentation part. Give me 1 minute, and extremely sorry for the confusion. Yeah, ma'am, I send that to you. Maybe hopefully you should be getting it now.
Let me check it, sir.
Hello. Yeah, I send it now. Sure, I send it now, and I'll one of you should be. I sent to both of you. Meanwhile, let me answer the question and then also complete the point which I was talking about, and then by the time you could try to bring the presentation on, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
first of all,
Hello.
yeah, first of all, excellent question. So actually, there is a concept called campus to corporate. We definitely have detailed slides coming up specifically for on that topic, because the way you would have done things in your in your college life, and the way things you would have done in your company life will be different. And what are those differences? We will get to that in a minute. And of course, there are specific like tips and tricks and techniques which we would like to share. But maybe if you ask me, there is one, or maybe I'll say two things I can share right now, which may look a little bit tough and philosophical in nature. One is what we call as accountability. So what that mean by that is, say, for example, if in a typical corporate organization, if they give you a particular project or a task, by default, they assume that you are going to do it. And they will take it for granted. And it is absolutely your responsibility to ensure that you are going to complete that. But in say, let me give you an example. And Joseph sir and Amrita ma'am, I'm sure this is an example you can correlate with. Say, imagine your lab records. Okay. Imagine
Sir, one more second, sir.
Sure.
We haven't received the presentation. We are checking it.
Okay. Give me one. Maybe it will take a little time, sir, because the size issue.
Okay. We are waiting, sir.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, it went from my mailbox.
Right. Or maybe some more second it will take.
Correct. It may take a little while to download.
Okay.
So coming back, actually, sorry for all the confusion. There is a power failure from yesterday night onwards, so that's the issue. Okay, so coming back to answer that, to come back to that particular question, there are two things people expect in a corporate world, which is completely different from your academic world. One is your flexibility. The second one is your accountability. And we'll cover that in the coming slides. I'm just giving it as a heads up. What we mean by accountability is, say, for example, giving the lab record example, imagine typically you need around 1 month to complete your lab record. And maybe Joseph sir or ma'am is going to come, Amrita is going to come and say that today they are going to come and say that today is Thursday, they are going to come and say that, guys, we want you to submit the lab record this Monday. That is maybe 3 or 4 more days down the line. Typically what will happen, we all gone through this, right? There will be a silence from our end. We may not go back to them and say that we will not be able to do it. And there will be a silence from our end. We'll go back home happily. And then on Monday, when the faculty comes and asks you, where is the lab record? You are going to like, you know what, we couldn't do it. That is something which is going to create a problem in a corporate world. Now, imagine this was a corporate world. Let me explain how do you handle the same scenario, and it will be clear. So basically, your professor is asking you to do something little difficult, or maybe even not practical, because you actually need 1 month to complete this, and they are asking you to do that in 3 or 4 days. And trust me, this is exactly what happens in many corporate organizations, because you never get enough time. So what do? The options you have is, one, you obviously can go back and say, no, we cannot do it. 90% of the time, that is not the right way to do it, but still you can do it. But the point you need to make sure is, the moment you get it, you need to say that. You should not wait till the deadline and go back and say that, oh, we couldn't do it. You need to tell that upfront so that the leaders, your managers in the organization can do some backup options, some alternate planning, etc., etc. Then another option, or even a better option, what you could do is, sir, we can do this. Only condition is, and then you give your conditions. You say that, okay, if typically, as you know, this will take 1 month and you want us to do it in like 3 or 4 days. Yes, we will do that. Only condition is there should not be any class for next 3-4 days. You should give free classes so that in the class itself, we will sit and complete maximum work. And also there should not be any assignments, homework, etc. I'm just giving some crazy, weird examples, okay, just so that you are able to get an idea about it. So when you come to corporate world, that is what is going to happen is you will get a task, and the moment you get a task, you will be shocked because you feel that this is something I am not able to do it, or this is something tough, this is something hard to achieve, etc., etc. One mistake people coming from college do is they sit on it until the last minute, and at the last minute they come and say that, no, we couldn't do it. That is something you should avoid. So the other two possible options, one, definitely the moment you get itself, you go and say that we cannot complete this project in this time, so that your manager could plan it, maybe give you more help or do something, or go back to the client and say that, you know what, we cannot deliver this project as per the timeline we have committed. It is more complex than we expected, etc., etc. Then, or what you do is you think through the problem and see, okay, so I have a project right now, which is actually going to take 1 week, but I have only 1 day to complete it. How can I do it? What are the demands I am going to tell to my manager so that I am able to complete this? And he's also happy. So then you go and say that, you know what, there is this person, as you know, in your team, there is one more person, and he doesn't have a lot of work right now. And if you could ask him to help me, and also if you could, today there is another task you have already assigned, you can reassign that to somebody else. Then I'll be able to sit maybe a couple of hours extra time as well, and I'll be able to finish it. So that is what we call as accountability. Say a very simple example, one more. The reason why I'm stressing on this word accountability is, if you ask me, I was lucky enough to go to almost all states in many states in India for campus recruitments in many colleges. One of the key challenges we see in the college students is on this accountability part. Say a very simple example is, I knew that there is a power failure from yesterday onwards. And yesterday night also, I had call to discuss the logistics and role with Joseph sir and ma'am. And I didn't tell them this because I didn't want them to get tensed. But at the same time, I had the plan B ready. I had the mobile connected, and that is why I joined from a mobile and kept it ready, so that, because this is my responsibility to ensure that the webinar gets delivered as per their expectation. And that kind of responsibility and accountability is expected from everyone from the day you join. And why I'm giving again, stressing you on that is, this is something nobody can train you on. This is something which should come to you naturally. And as you know, these are attitude related aspects, and there is no way you can get a training or anything like that. So I know it's a very long answer, but there are definitely a few more things which we are going to cover using the presentation in the coming slides and tomorrow, about a set of challenges that you are going to face in the IT world and how you are going to handle this. But that is the initial response to the answer. Definitely during the Q&A segment, we can discuss that in detail. But Joseph sir, have I answered that question?
Yeah, absolutely.
And did you receive the deck?
No, not yet, sir.
Okay, my goodness. Not
So
sure why.
I think, sir. Meanwhile, Tansen may have a few words regarding this. I
Correct.
think that will be the better option.
Yeah, I was about to say that. So, because this is exactly the question which Tansen will be able to answer, right? So,
Yeah, correct.
Tansen, one request I have is say, this is something you have I mean, all of us definitely have gone through that, but you will be able to give a very realistic answer to that. So you will be able to compare your college life and your life at UST or a corporate IT company and see what are the differences, what are the challenges that you faced in your early days, etc., etc. So maybe you want to take a couple of minutes and share your thoughts, Tansen?
Yeah, sure, Vinodha.
Sure.
Meanwhile, what I can say is, Vinodha, if you are sharing the deck using UST mail, I may be having an issue in the firewalls. And
yeah, I'm going to send that from Gmail.
Okay. And again, if you can loop me in my UST mail, I can also try to get it.
Absolutely. We'll do that. We'll do that. We'll do that.
Okay. Hi, friends. Let me introduce myself. My name is Tansen. Tansen Parlasiri is my name. Right now, I'm working as a senior software developer in UST Global and completing 5 years in UST. And for that, I am an alumni. I'm an alumni of DIST College. I completed my BCA and MCA as well in DIST. The motive of joining myself joining in this seminar, in this webinar, is to kind of making an impression that from a corporate level of presentations that that has prepared, and and the style in which he's delivering his notes, you may be thinking like it is from we are kind of people from another universe, and it is something that you people can't get into, and only an IIT kind of people can be in a position that that is right now. So it is not like that. I am also one among you, and actually Vinodhan is also one among us. So I think my presence would make a little clarity in that point. That's the reason why I am also participating in this webinar. So basically, two things that I would say is one thing, two things before I joined UST, and one thing after I joined UST. Those are the things that I plan to speak today. One thing is we do have a general misconception or a myth that whatever we study in our college days, or maybe in any educational years that we cover, whatever we study is of no use when we come to the job. That's a myth that we have, but I would say it is wrong actually. Anything that we study, I won't say that what we study, that is generating a Fibonacci series or doing a matrix multiplication is going to be, you'll be asked to do that in the development area. I don't say it like that. But right from the SDLC to the microprocess that you study while you are in college, is going to be a base, it's going to lay a base to each and everything that you're going to be worked in real development, or what you are, whatever you are doing in IT industry. So what I would say is, you have to really, there may be problems or in the syllabus that we are following everything, but you really need to give attention in your studies, and since we have a really good connect with the people who are working with the recruitments, we know that how much it is important that to gain that you should be having a good percentage of marks and understanding of the subjects that you are studying in the college, because that's only way that the recruiters will be able to judge you when you are in an interview. So in that part, what I would say is the second thing is very important thing is, I think Vinodhan will be covering that in the presentation in a very well manner. The second thing is about the projects that you do. Make sure that you do the project by yourself. At the end of your course, I think for BCA and MCA, you'll be having 2 projects to complete. Make sure that you don't buy it from somewhere. You do it by yourself. From my experience, what I would say is, I was having less than 4 interviews attended before I joined UST, and in all interviews they were giving emphasis to the projects that I did, and particularly in UST, what I would say is they were asking questions regarding what I was done, what I did in the project, what was the topic, and everything. That is routine questions. And other than that, what were the kind of suggestions that I was able to give? What were the kind of suggestions that I was able to give? I was actually doing project for Vincentian Fathers. Actually, that was planning. It was a kind of plan to implement that on Vincentian Fathers website, but later in course I was not able to complete that one. I apologize for that with Tom sir and everyone who helped me to do that, but I couldn't complete it. But it was actually a plan. I had a discussion with many staff and in distant Vincentian congregation regarding that. And the question that I got was, what were the suggestions that I delivered to the customer, and which among them I was able to complete and which among them I was not able to complete. Like that, a lot of practical level questions I was able to answer, and from those things, I think the interviewer was getting an impression that I itself did the thing, and I itself having a clear-cut understanding of the project I'm doing. So what I would conclude in that point is, make sure that you are doing your projects by yourself and give adequate importance to the project part. That is the thing that I would say is before joining an MNC or a job in general. And after joining, my point is continue learning. Don't stop learning. While doing my MCA and BCA, I studied, as you all do, I studied a lot of languages, C, C++, Java, PHP. After MCA also, I did my course outside. I did 2 courses outside, DIST and some other institute for PHP and .NET. And I had an internship too in a company in Smart City itself. So that too was in .NET. And after that, when I was recruited in UST, I got my training in mainframe. That is entirely different language and system that I was familiar at that time. So I had to study that. And after getting trained in mainframe, I was posted in a support project. Later, I moved to a support development project. Right now, I'm a developer. Right now, doing development in mainframe computers, and I'm right in front of the system for now. What I would say is we need to continue learning each time, every time. When you switch from, don't think that when you are into a company, you are safe. When a project completes, you will have to switch the accounts. I mean, a project say for 3 to 4 months, say for 1 year, after completing that project, you will have to switch the project. At that time, you will have again interview with the technology, on technology with the project managers, leads or someone else, or maybe with the clients. So you will have to get updated with the technology. You may be switching the verticals that you are working. So again, you will have to study new verticals, new things again and again and again. So don't think like once you are out of the college, you can stop learning things. So, and coming back to last point, what Vinodhan said, from our recent experience, that once you are assigned with work, think like it is your child. Like you, in any way, the work with you are given with is expected to be completed by you itself. Uh, the people who assign it does not need to know that what a kind of effort that you need to take it on. Take all the pain and effort to complete it on time. Uh, like that, an experience that we have with the newly onboarded freshers we had. It is not kind of a, I would say it's not kind of a, you are appearing for a university exam and getting a question which is out of syllabus. Soon after the exam, you will come to your teacher and you will say like that, so this is out of syllabus, that we need a full mark for this question. This is not like that. You will be, you need to be ready for anything and everything that is worst. You will be getting entirely different things that you studied, but you have to work a lot hard and make the things done. For that, what you have to do is continue learning. Yeah, that's from me. Over to you.
Okay, thanks and thank you. Thank you for your valuable insights. Hello?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Are we good? Are we good with the presentation?
Till now we doesn't get the presentation. So yeah, I request any participants that anyone have any doubt related to anything about the job opportunities or how the working environment is there in the company, you can directly ask our alumni, our favorite alumni, Tansen. He will surely remove all the queries or doubts that you have. How the working environment is in the UST Global, you can ask, or what are the procedures that we can use, what are the procedures that they are in the UST Global, all the things that you can ask our alumni. You have a golden opportunity to clear out all the doubts. If anyone have any doubt, please carry forward.
Yeah, we have 10 minutes more. If you have any questions, we can deliver. I believe, I think Vinodhan has gone offline. Someone expected power
Tansen,
issues.
sir is here, Vinod sir is here. He came back.
Tansen, sorry for the confusion. Actually, I was trying all the possibilities to see how I can share it. Ma'am, I tried once again, can you confirm whether you received it?
Okay, sir, 1 minute, I will check it out.
Okay, meanwhile, what I'll try to do is, let me see if I can project from my mobile.
Yeah, that's
okay, sir.
good. That's possible.
Yeah, give me 1 minute. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, Vinodhan. That's
great. Oh, okay. So let's go to the slide which we were, and maybe this will act as a quick recap to all of us. Okay, so this is where we were. And ma'am, one favor I need from you is, like,
Yes,
give me an idea, like when to stop for today and to start the Q&A. Okay, until then I'll keep going.
Okay, sir. Sure.
Okay.
So
okay.
there is a question to the Tansen. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. Go ahead.
One student has asked a question to Tansen. How do you manage your IT career as strong? Tansen? Tansen?
Yeah, by the term strong, I didn't. I am not clear with this term. Strong.
I think she is asking how you strongly standing in the IT career, how you builded that capacity. Since you are telling that you are an average student, so from there you have become a senior software engineer. So the journey, I think so. She is asking about the journey.
Yeah, the senior software engineer is something that we naturally eventually becomes that leader. We don't have to do anything, especially for that. We have to sustain it. Just what we have to do is to sustain in company, and to be in this firm. What I would say is, as Vinodhan said, we need to be passionate about the field. That is exactly needed. But along with that, is it something that we love to do? That's the thing that we need to think of. It was something I was very interested to come into. And along with that, I have a little bit interest in music also. So that is also my interest of another area of interest. So if we are able to continue our passion along with our other interests, I think we'll be able to stick on to the area that we are. If we are stick on to the area that we are in, and along with that, we'll be interested. We'll be very much interested to be in that area. So that is the reason why I'm still in USD, specifically to USD, so that I would say otherwise I'll be switching the company by this 5 years. So the reason why I'm in USD itself and in IT itself is that I'm very much interested in being in USD in the perspective of delivery side, and along with that, I am also part of the music team, other color activities that we have in. So it is a combination of everything, that work and other extracurricular, like what we do, what we call extracurricular activities, social services, arts, everything that we have a combination, everything. So participating in all this in an equal manner will give strength what to be in the company and to pursue. What we are. Yeah, I think that's what I for that as an answer for that.
Okay, thank you, Tansa. Tansa, one more question is there. One student has asked, "What's your opinion? Sorry, what's your opinion about our educational system, which make us write the code in an exam sheet than focusing more on practicals?"
Both are needed. I would say both are needed. After studying that, after studying the algorithm, everything, only we can move to systems, and both are needed. But I think I won't completely blame the education system that we are following right now, but some improvements are it is exactly sure that we need some improvements, but both are needed, I would say, because all at once we can start coding. But I would say, it is fine to start from a pen and paper methodology, and then write only. I won't blame anything. Yeah, I think we know that
Absolutely, absolutely. By the way, but your answers are extremely accurate, and of course, since you are talking from your personal experience. Just two more points to both the questions earlier. On the first question about of course, Tansen factors and all, the point to be kept in mind is one more reason, not just to Tansen, all of us, everybody who has gone through this. One more reason we completely ignore or we miss is, keep in mind, once we are in a corporate world, that also means that we have matured in our age. Of course, you are going through a transition phase right now. So by the time you join a corporate organization, most of you would have a different image about your life. And of course, you may have your life pressure and priorities, etc. So the kind of seriousness which the kind of maturity which Panson was talking about, that will come to us naturally. And then on top of it, if you are really passionate about what you do, like what Panson is doing, then your success is almost guaranteed. Now, coming to the second question about writing with paper and pen, trust me, mark my words, writing code in paper and pen is even more critical than writing the code in the computer. If you ask me, like for example, I don't know, ma'am, sir, whether you have the same policy. When we used to do when I was doing my course, the students were asked to write the algorithm first in the lab record or maybe in another rough record, and they need to show that in the classroom. Only then they will be allowed to enter into the lab. I think that is an excellent practice. The reason is very simple. Once you get into a corporate world, right, you don't have to worry about syntax. You can Google it. You can talk to your friends. You can reuse your existing code, which is done by somebody else in the company. But what you cannot get any help from anyone is your logic or your programming skills. That is, how do you write your logic? That is exactly why in most of the recruitment interviews, if you have done any mock interviews or if you have attended any actual interviews, the interview panel will give you a paper and ask you to write the code. And they will also tell you it is okay if you don't exactly remember the syntax, because they are also not really worried about the syntax, but they really care about your logic. So for you to get a strong foundation on the logic, nothing helps than writing using pen and paper. But I know the person who asked that question was using that as an example. But since that was a very relevant example, I just wanted to highlight that. But definitely, I completely agree. There are definitely areas where the current syllabus and the education system as such needs to improve a lot, which we will definitely cover that in the coming slides. So maybe I think somebody may need to go on mute. So we'll move to the next one. By the way, ma'am, any more questions or shall we move on?
Vinod, I think we will go with the slides and
Yeah, correct, sir. We can move with the slides, sir. And at the end, we will deal with the questions. Hello.
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
What we are going to do next is maybe the rest of the presentation is going to be focusing on what is being circled here. That is the different type of IT companies, products, platforms, and services, which I'll cover in 2 minutes now. And then we will focus on what are the roles available in those type of companies, and what are the skills and competencies that they expect from you, and etc. etc. And then we will cover the COVID-related part. And when I say we will, I'm talking about both today and tomorrow combined. So to quickly clarify what is the difference between a product and service, for those of you who don't know, a product is something you go and buy. So from a company standpoint, the difference is, say for example, it's exactly like if you want to buy a house, you can either go to an architect, you can tell your requirements, and the architect will build a custom designed house meeting your requirements, and that house is only for you. But if you want to buy a house, you can also go to a construction company like Skyline or Galaxy Homes, etc., and buy a villa or a flat. And what they do is they try to understand what mostly people like when it comes to designing a house, and using that, they will create houses or flats or villas exactly the same, but large in number, and they will sell the same or similar things to different set of consumers. Now, to bring that into the IT context, look at the IRCTC website. or online SBI website or the website of ICICI Bank or the mobile app of ICICI Bank. That IT company worked with the client, understood what they need in the website or the mobile app, and created a custom solution for them and sold it or got money only for that. Very similar to a custom built house which an architect designs and builds for you. That is what is called a service. Now, when it comes to, say, for example, look at Microsoft Office. Microsoft Office, you are using Microsoft Office, but that doesn't mean that the Microsoft Office team or the Microsoft employees came and talked to you and understood what you need in Microsoft Office and then created a custom software and gave it to you, right? They did what people call it as market research, understood what are the most popular needs in the market. Based on that, they created software and they sold the same software to hundreds of people. So that is the difference between products and services. Now, what is platform? Very simple. So, for example, if you look at what we are using right now, Google Meet or Amazon Marketplace, etc., all those are platforms where the producers and consumers are coming together and they are using the platform. Or Uber is the best, or Ola, or Swiggy, Uber Eats, all those things are good examples. Because if you look at Uber, right, they are not owning any restaurants. They are not selling the food. They are only doing the so-called, the broker work, the mediator work, the intermediate work. That is what is, in simple terms, platforms is all about. So product, basically no customization. A same product is being created, mass produced, and sold to multiple customers. When it comes to services, a custom-made software developed only for a particular client after understanding what they are looking for. And when it comes to platforms, it is in between, where there are a few things which are standard in nature, the rest of the things can be customized. Very similar to your Facebook profile or a LinkedIn profile, where there are a few things you can customize, but there are a few things which are standard, built in nature. So there are these three types of companies, or even in the single company, there may be these three different business lines. Now, okay, another point is, after looking at evaluating all these career options, right? Maybe you may decide to get into an IT industry or maybe some other IT industry. Some other industry. Now, if at all you decide to get into an IT industry, these are the roles you have at a high level. It's very simple to understand. I'll give a quick explanation. Of course, the development work, what people call as software engineering or software developer, etc. Of course, there are multiple technology areas. Based on that, your job will vary. You could be a web developer. You could be a developer of a mobile app. You may be a UI, user experience developer. Basically, you are the one who's designing the user experience and doing the coding for that. You may do some sort of a system software development. There could be database-related development work. You design the tables, write the queries, etc. And there is something called full-stack developer where you do all this. That is the development part. Then comes the production support part. Now, this is where there is an application, say IRCTC website or Google, etc., or Facebook or WhatsApp, where it is running 24/7. And you need to ensure that it runs 24/7 without any issues. If at all there are some issues or challenges, you need to come and fix it. Very similar to the firefighters and the police, etc., etc. Then, definitely there are openings and opportunities in the hardware side or in the networking side or both. And of course, there are opportunities in the infrastructure side as well, which is very kind of an extension to the networking part. And there are opportunities in the semiconductor space, the chip design, the motherboard, circuits, etc., etc., a little bit more electronic in nature. But keep in mind, in the electronic side also, there are softwares as well. Because if you remember your microprocessor syllabus, there are some hardware parts involved in that, but there are also microprocessor related programs you had to write for the microprocessor to work. So there is again programming work as well and hardware work as well involved in the semiconductor space. Then comes the robotics/mechatronics kind of role comes into picture, where very similar to semiconductor, where there is an overlap of computer science and electronics. Here there is an overlap of computer science, electronics, and mechanical kind of work in nature. Then comes the product and platforms, which we already talked about. And of course, the testing part, the QA part, where you validate an application, either manually testing it or through an automated testing tool like Selenium and all those things. So now keep in mind, there are an umpteen number of other roles and opportunities and profiles in an IT industry. But why I'm highlighting that is these roles, these are the ones which are typically offered to somebody without experience, somebody who's fresh out of college. Now, one more aspect is, this is whatever we just talked about is the core technology related jobs. But in any IT company, there are non-technical roles as well. Like, say, for example, there are recruitment, HR, finance, sales, marketing, of course, the BPO, the call center, and the data entry, etc., etc. And there are legal, and there are quite a lot of additional departments. And the point to be noted is, there is a 90% chance that you may not be able to get into these roles if you have done a computer science course. Mostly you will not be given an offer in any of these areas. Mostly your offer will be what is highlighted on the green side. But what can happen is, once you join an organization, most of the organizations, there may be a high probability to move into these kind of departments, because in these departments, say for example, if you are working in a technology company, you need to have a little bit of a technology background to work in any of these areas. So even if you look at most of the IT companies, if you look at the recruitment, HR, finance, etc., you will see a lot of people coming from computer science background. And the reason is they need people with the domain computer industry knowledge as well. So these are the typical roles offered in an IT industry. Now, another interesting area. Now, this is where the challenging part we talked about.
Sir, hello.
Yes. Yes, sir, please.
So we will take 10 more minutes before winding up, right?
Absolutely.
Because it is already 12:10.
Absolutely, sir. You give me a hint when we need to stop, and then I'll make a logical pause there, and then we can go for questions.
Okay. So we can go for 5 more minutes. Then we can have the Q&A session. Then today we will wind up, right?
Absolutely. Maybe we'll go till maybe 12:15 or 12:20, and then we can take a question. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So next one is the some numbers. So these are the numbers, but specific to MCA course, I didn't extract the numbers about all the courses but the numbers look more or less similar. These are the MCA related courses. So if you look at it, there are around 70,000 plus people passing out every year in India. And these are the numbers over a period of time. Now, interestingly, what you will notice is, what you see on the orange color is the intake, the number of people who join the course. And what you see on black is the number of people pass. And what you see on blue is the number of people who get placed. So if you look at it, every year, almost only half of the people, not just in MCA, in every computer science course, only half of the people get placement after their course or while they are in the college through campus placement. Now, if you look at it, we already talked about these many roles. And you are hearing a lot of stories that like this company is making profit, that company is making profit, this company is starting a new office there, that company is starting a new office there, etc., etc. A lot of growth stories, and there are a lot of these kind of roles available in the organization. And there are a lot of people passing out after the computer courses every year. Then where is the difference? Why the people who are completing the courses right now through colleges are not getting the placement? Where exactly is the gap? And what I would call is the gap is, and of course, this is a question I'm sure you would have again heard 100 times from your neighbors, uncles, and aunties and relatives. And the reason why I wanted to highlight that is, say, maybe if you are in the final year, if you are still not placed anywhere, and if you are feeling tensed, if you are feeling frustrated, as I started in the beginning, it is absolutely fine. It is okay to be tensed. It is okay to be frustrated because, but keep in mind, you still have a much better chance of getting a placement. I'll explain that in a minute, maybe today or in our tomorrow session. So why there is a gap happening like this, and what can you do? So maybe, sir, we will finish with this slide and then we will open up for questions. Is that fine? This would be the last slide.
Fine. Absolutely fine, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Now this is where I am going to put you on spot, sir. I'm going to put you in trouble, to put it in simple words. So what I want all of you to do is, while you are listening to the session, I'm going to ask a few questions. Don't worry, you don't have to answer these. You don't have to put it in the chat window. You just answer it in your mind. And then I am going to ask the same question to Sir Joseph, sir. So, sir, my question to you is, in your typical batch, right? How much, give me a percentage, how many of them can write a simple computer program? Can you give a rough number? When I say simple programs, typically the ones we give in the early days of their lab, right? The first set of modules.
Okay. Maybe between 65 to 70%.
Okay, I'll note it down, 65 to 70%. Fair enough. Next question again. And so people who are attending the call, just in your mind, mark a yes or no to all these questions. So you need to answer this honestly in your mind and answer whether you can write a simple computer program. So, sir, next question. How many people can talk simple English sentences? They can communicate. Of course, maybe even with minor mistakes. Mistakes are okay.
Right. Of course, maybe between 70 to 80%.
70 to 80%. Again, a good number. Okay. How many of them can write simple algorithm? So, okay, before asking that question to sir, again, this is a question you need to answer the students in the call in your mind. Be very honest. You don't have to share it with anyone. You don't have to put it in chat window. It is just for your understanding. How many of you can communicate in simple English? Next question, sir, to you is, how many of them in an average in your batches, what you have seen, can write simple algorithms?
Around 75%.
70%. Okay. So we are seeing a consistent pattern of around 70%. Okay. How many of them have the soft skills needed for an entry level IT job? That means how many of them typically you think can like pass it a simple an average level of difficulty HR interview?
Yeah, of course, around 60 to 65.
60 to 65. Okay. So for the first three questions, it was 70%. I'll put it as 70. And then last one, I'll put it as 60%. You agree, sir?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, I'm going to show you the national average for the students who are doing computer courses. When I say computer courses, this includes, again, the same set of courses, the BCA, MCA, BSc Computer Science, MSc Computer Science, BTech, BE, all those things put together. only 1.4% can write simple computer programs. Only 3% in India can communicate in simple English. Only 9% can write simple algorithms, and only 30% can do have the soft skills needed for an IT job. This is why I said, though right now you may be tensed, you may be worried, you may be frustrated about your future and the potential to get a placement, you still have a better chance than the industry average in the country, because if you can write a simple computer program, then out of 100 randomly selected students from India, you are going to get either rank 1 or rank 2. That is what the 1.4% says, right? Because let's round it off 1.4 as 2%, then means in every 100 students, only 2 people in India can write simple computer programs, which means you are one of the 2, which means you have a maybe several times more chances of getting a placement. So the point what I was trying to say is, if you recap, right? Once I recap, we can open it up for questions, sir. But by the way, you are also surprised about the numbers, right, sir?
Yeah, sure.
So the point is, if you look at it, right, we talked about in simple terms, right? We talked about the 3-layered confusions, how your career is creating a confusion. Now we have also reached halfway through how computer field is, or IT field is, even more confusing in nature. And definitely we will cover the rest of the topics in tomorrow's session, and also the COVID part. And then we talked about how you should embrace change, because you will not have a lot of clarity even in the coming days. Things are going to be more confusing in nature. And then we talked about the concept called ikigai, if you remember the Japanese word, where your love, your skills, the industry demand, and the compensation you get, all 4 things get overlapped. Then we talked about the industry 3.0, where it started from mechanical automation to electricity to electronics to now IT or internet. Then we talked about your life choices and what are the roles available in the IT industry. Then we looked at the number, the ACTE, how many students pass out every year, and then how many get placed, and why there is a difference. So this is why there is a difference. And what I mean by this, why there is a difference is, though there are X number of maybe 70,000 MCA students pass out every year, close to the same number from BCA, BSc Computer Science, etc., slightly higher number for BTech and BE, maybe out of 100, less than 2% is actually employable. They have the simple basic skills like writing simple computer programs, simple English sentences, simple algorithms, etc. And that is exactly why most of you, if you have answered yes to many of these questions or all of these questions, you are in the rank top 2 percentile. What I mean by top 2 percentile is, if there are 100 people, you are in rank 1 or 2. So that is why I said you are slightly better than compared to the national average. So don't worry much. There will be a lot of opportunities coming your way, and there are ways in which you can crack. And that is exactly what we are going to talk tomorrow. So we are going to talk tomorrow about what are the skills and competencies you need to get into an IT job, and how your syllabus and whatever the course you are doing right now, how that is going to help you. Then what are the things you need to take care while applying for an offer, how your selection process is going to apply, and how much of a role your project, seminar, lab, etc. is going to place. And then we are going to stop tomorrow at that with the section 2, which is IT. Then we are going to get into the COVID part again tomorrow, where we look at how COVID has affected the industry and the world, specifically IT industry, how that has impacted the recruitment and the campus placements, how that is going to affect the way you go through recruitment process. Maybe you are going to face an online interview rather than a face-to-face interview or an online GD, etc. And how once you join the organization, how that is going to affect your life. Then what we are going to focus tomorrow after that is some tips and tricks which I'll share purely based on my personal experiences. What are few things that you can do during this lockdown period? What are a few things you can do from our end, in addition to what you do as part of your syllabus, to ensure that you have even better chance to get placed? And also, what are some of the technologies which are hot in the market or became even more attractive and hotter because of the COVID situation? And then, of course, we are going to close with a few tips, very practical tips and action items for you. That is what we are going to cover tomorrow. So the skills and competencies, what you need to do while you are in the college, then how can you utilize your lockdown period, and how your recruitment process is going to get affected because of COVID, and what are the areas you can focus, what are the things you can do. That is what we are going to focus tomorrow. So needless to say, tomorrow's topics are even more important and even more practical in nature. So I hope all of you will come back and join tomorrow. And also, before I open it up for questions, a huge apology to all of you for all the technical issues and confusions because of which we lost some time. Hopefully, we'll be able to compensate that for tomorrow. Now, sir, I'll pass it back to you and we can open it up for questions.
Okay. Thank you, Vinod sir, for this beautiful section. So some of the queries that the students have provided is, I will read out the questions. Okay, sir, can we start?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So the first question was, what are the scope in networking career in current technology?
Okay. So, couple of ways to answer that. There are definitely a lot of opportunities in networking, purely because, and the point is, say, networking, you need to take it in a couple of ways. For example, if you look at cloud, right? Cloud is a hot area. And there are a lot of opportunities in cloud. But if you look at the typical networking, like the old ways of LAN cable and internet and routers, etc., there are definitely opportunities. But there is one thing you need to keep in mind. The salary you get early days, of course, once you pick up a little bit of experience, you are going to get huge salary, but your starting salary typically in networking kind of roles may be relatively lesser than a typical software engineering kind of roles. And also keep in mind, the number of opportunities in a typical soft networking role is very limited. The reason is, if you look at, say, one of UST centers, right? So for example, Kochi. In UST Kochi office, we have around 2,500 employees. And out of that, maybe 1,500 or even 2,000 people are doing the software engineering job. Maybe there may be maximum 20 or 30 people who may be working on the networking side. So the number of opportunities in general, and that is not a new trend from the beginning itself, it has consistently been proportionately lower, because it's a very simple thing, right? It's like, for example, in a college, right? If you look at it, again, a crazy example, right? You may need a lot of teaching staff, but the number of non-teaching staff, maybe number of accountants may be lesser compared to the number of teaching staff, right? If you look at a proportion. Likewise, the number of people in networking are typically in the industry relatively smaller. So there are opportunities if you look at the traditional networking concept, there are opportunities in the industry, but the pay package may be slightly lesser, and the number of opportunities are also slightly lesser. But if you can quickly upskill yourself by taking up really good industry standard certifications and all, then, and if you're really good at that, you will get extremely high salary. Also, another alternative to look at is the cloud side of the networking and infrastructure part. I hope that I answered that question. And also, Tansen, like throughout this session, feel free to pitch in at any time. Okay.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
sure.
Can I read out the next question?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. What is the importance of smart board in the field of education?
What is the importance of
Smart board in the field of education.
Okay, so first of all, taking an anticipatory bail, this is not a question which I am competent enough to answer, because keep in mind, I am not from the academic sector, okay? But any kind, if you look at it right now, one of the industries which has got maximum technology adoption in such short span of time is education. Say most of the schools or most of the colleges in our country or in our state would not have used smartphones and laptops and smart classroom concepts for their education purpose. Now, if you look at it in the matter of couple of weeks' time, almost all educational institutions have become online. So the point is, any technology which is going to enable the education is definitely going to help. But specifically on this question, maybe this is a question which maybe somebody like Joseph sir or Amrita ma'am, people from the education sector needs to answer. In a corporate world, keep in mind, there are a lot of trainings happening in the corporate world, very similar to what you go through. The only difference is most of those trainings are like mostly PowerPoint presentation based, etc. And also, you know, most of these collaboration platforms like Zoom or WebEx or Google Meet, etc., you have this online whiteboard option. So that is what typically people use, but mostly we always use PowerPoint presentations, etc.
Okay, sir. That was good. So next question is, what is the big factor that has helped you to be successful?
Okay, so I'll answer that in two ways. Okay, one is from a technical standpoint, from a computer science standpoint. From the second one is from my life or my career in general. My life or career in general, I concur with what Tansen said. It is the passion. What I mean by that is, when I was about to join, pick up computer science, everybody I met advised me, because that was a bad time to pick up computer science courses, actually. And everybody advised me, don't pick computer science. And I was only interested in computer science courses, and I applied only for computer science courses. So I joined computer science, and I joined because that is what I wanted to do. And then I joined an IT industry purely because I knew, say again, that was not a sacrifice or a compromise I had to make, because I knew that I am not a good entrepreneur. I will not be able to start a company of my own or do a good job in that, or I may not be able to do a good job in any other sector. So I was very clear that IT corporate is my cup of tea. That is where I want to be, and that is where I ended up with. So when you know where you want to be, and when you end up exactly at that place, you will become the most happiest person, right? And that will reflect in your passion. And that is exactly what I hope that passion throughout my career helped me to be where I am, very similar to what Tansen mentioned. Coming to the technical part, one point I wanted to add is, the only part is, there was another question. Is the logic part. Luckily, when we were doing the education computer science courses, we were like kind of prohibited from by hearting the code, etc., etc. And 90% of the time it was surprise test and etc. Typically, the professor will come to the class, and even before starting the class, the theory session, he will give a random programming assignment, and we need to write that in the classroom without referring anything, and he will evaluate that in the class. So the fact that we could write programs without, even if we were given some out of syllabus programs, we still could manage, most of us could manage to do that. There's one reason, that is because we did not by heart. To an extent, we tried to understand the concepts. So that is how I would split up. Anything to add, Tansen, from your end?
Not much, Vedanatha. I'm good.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so thanks for the explanation. And the next question is, what are the most important thing that we have to think of while choosing a career?
Okay, so I will, there is, we definitely have, as you know, sir, we are definitely going to discuss this in detail in tomorrow's session, but I'll just recap what we started, the concept of Ikigai, which is a Japanese concept. So basically what you need to look at is, one, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Two, what are your likes and dislikes? Three, based on that, are there enough opportunities in the industry? Four, will you get compensated enough? Or will you get enough payment? So those are the four things you need to keep in mind while choosing the career. I know that maybe you may not be able to put a checkpoint against all four, but at least you need to ensure that there is at least three of them being checked. Say for example, when I choose a career, I should know that this is something I like, I love, or I enjoy doing. That is checkpoint number one. Checkpoint number two, it is not just about my likeness, but this is my strength as well. I am really good at doing this. The third one is there will be enough long-term opportunities in the industry if I continue doing this. And the fourth one is, of course, I'll get pretty decent salary to take care of my family. So these are the four things you need to preferably ask yourself. And when you identify a career, at least three of them, if you ask me, should be a check. If you can, maybe the world is not all our wishes may not come true, right? So maybe we may need to make some sacrifices and compromises. So maybe if you can get 3 out of 4, we are good.
Okay, fine, sir. And another most relevant question is, most of the IT companies are there for recruiting only the experienced candidates, right? And what as a fresher I can do to get recruited?
Okay, so 2 answers. First and foremost, that statement itself is not factually accurate. If you look at most of the big IT organizations, Indian IT companies, if you look at it, their number of intake of freshers is much higher than the number of intake of laterals. Typically in the industry, people use this word fresher and lateral. Lateral means people who join the organization with experience. Now, the reason why companies do that is, keep in mind, you both are being hired. So imagine or let's take the example of Tansen. Imagine Tansen is working in another company and I want to recruit Tansen to UST versus I want to come to Deepole Institute and recruit one of you. Keep in mind, when I want to recruit Tansen, the reason why I want to recruit Tansen is for a completely different reason, because he has got maybe 5 or 10 years of experience on a particular technology, and I need someone who has that many number of years of experience, because the client is asking for an experienced person, or we think that only experienced people can do that job. So that is why I am going to Tansen. Why I come to institutes like DPOL is when there are large projects coming up, we definitely need people, lot of people in large quantity to do the work. And that is where, but sometimes we will have enough time to train you people. So that is when we go to colleges and take people in mass recruitments and take them through a very structured training process and then make them working in the project. Now, the second part of the question, what is that you can do to ensure that you get placed? Of course, we have a lot of slides coming in tomorrow, specifically focusing on that. But to answer that in a very simple terms, what you can do right now is just focus on what you are supposed to do right now. And don't think this as a cliche statement. So, very simple example, right? You know that every organization is looking for a cutoff mark, right? There is a 60% cutoff. So whatever happens, mostly unless you have 60% or 70% based on the company, if you don't have the cutoff, you will not even be able to apply for the job opportunity, irrespective of how good you are in programming. So one mistake many of us, including myself, end up doing is we may be passionate about coding. We may focus on only that, and we will not focus on the theory part, and we will lose marks, and then the overall percentage will get affected. So that is where right now what you need to focus on is a couple of things. One, your academic marks, ensure that you get like more than 60%. Two, this is something again we have some detailed slides coming up. Please take your project, your lab and seminar seriously. Do not go to an institute and buy a project or do a project like when they spoon feed you. It is okay if you end up doing an average quality project or even a bad project, but do it by yourself. And the third thing, so one is your academics. The second one is your lab, seminar, projects, etc. And the third one that I suggest to you is you can learn any concept or any technology now by sitting in front of your mobile. Any concept, and this is a tip, okay, maybe something you can take as a tip from my side. Say, when you read the textbook or when you listen to your lecture taken by your professor, maybe there are certain concepts you are not able to understand. What you can do is go to YouTube and give that name of the concept, say pointers. You or maybe linked list. You don't know what linked list is. Your professor explained to me, but you are not able to understand the concept. Or in the DB, your faculty explained to you the concept of nested query, but you don't understand. You are not. Go to YouTube and type this word, and there are very simple 2-minute, 3-minute videos where there will be somebody explaining these concepts in a very simple way. So ensure that. And of course, there are online courses and certifications like through Coursera, edX, all those MOOC platforms, which we'll cover tomorrow in detail. So to recap, 3 things: focus on your academic percentage, focus on your lab, seminar, and project. 3, focus on your upskilling part, your self-learning by using internet. Those are the 3 things you can do right now to ensure that you have even better chance to get placed.
Sir,
yes.
Sir, I think it's already 12:40, but lot of questions are there in the lineup. We will go through one or two. Then today we will wind up. The thing is, other questions I will mail to you, and you can answer it by tomorrow. That will be good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, sir, I am okay to stay back if the people who have asked the questions want to listen to this. I am open to extending it maybe for a few minutes if there are more questions.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So we can continue, right?
Yeah.
So the another one of the most relevant question is, the corporate world have done lot of changes in recruitment strategy due to the impact of COVID-19. May I know what are the new changes UST has made during this pandemic and how they affect, how effective they are?
Okay, so first of all, the answer to the second part, that is how effective they are, I will be very honest with you. Uh, you know it, right? Most of you have been attending the online classes. And if you are in your classroom, you know for sure that that would have been much more effective. Likewise, say for example, if you look at this webinar, right? If all of you have assembled in a conference room, and if I was physically standing in front of you along with Anson and trying to explain this concept, I'm sure this would have been more effective. But unfortunately, we have no other choice. So likewise, when it comes to recruitment, say for example, an interview, when you sit on the other side of the table and I sit as an interviewer, it is easy for me to make decision quickly. It is easy for me to understand what kind of a person you are, your character, your strengths, weaknesses, skills, what kind of a team player you are, etc., etc. It is extremely difficult for me to assess that in a online mode. So UST and all other organizations are making adopting online methods to have recruit people through online recruit people to do online recruitment. Say for example, online interviews, online group discussions, online test, etc. Of course, compared to where we were, there are definitely challenges, but we don't have a choice. We have to live with it. Now, one again tip that I want to give you is this online interview or online group discussion is a tough thing, even for you. The reason is only, say, if you look at it, right, you can at the max see only from my head to maybe my shoulder part. And the same is applicable if you sit on the other side. So maybe your hand movements, all those things may not be visible for me. So what kind of a human being you are? Are you a very confident person? Are you a very friendly person? Are you a good team player? Do you have leadership skills? All those things, it is very difficult for an interviewer to figure out when you do an online interview. So that is where what I would suggest as a tip, that is where I was coming to, is see if you can form friend circle group and practice online group discussions and online interviews. Maybe you may feel little tensed if you want to. Preferably, it should be somebody from the faculty side, but maybe you could do that in your own. Maybe you can create exactly like how we do combined study on the previous day of the exam or just before getting into the exam hall. What you could do is you can form friends, your friends can form circle groups, and then randomly one person take the role of an interviewer and another person take the role of an interviewee and try to conduct online interviews with the help of mobile or laptop. That practice will help a lot. I hope that answers that question.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that answer. So one again an interesting question is, what is the best advice you can give to the students like us who are waiting for the placement?
Okay, so the okay, I'll give maybe two advices. Okay, one, ensure that you understand the concept rather than by hearting it. And I'll come to an example of an interview question which I was asked. I'll come to that question in a minute, which I'll never forget in my life. I'll come to that in a minute. So one is ensure that you are clear about the concept. Do not by heart, particularly the topics like data structures, hardware, operating systems, software engineering, etc. It may look very boring, but those are extremely important topics. So you need to have a lot of clarity on those concepts. Again, how do you ensure that you are clear about the concept? The same technique I mentioned, go to Wikipedia or YouTube and try to learn more about the topic. So that is one advice. The second advice is you need to have that passion and energy and confidence while you talk to others. People should feel that, yes, this person is really interested in IT field, and this person is really interested in software engineer role, and this person is really interested in my company, and he's confident or she is confident. You need to create that impression in the way that you present yourself, your body language, your face expressions, etc. And the easiest way to do that is you be naturally passionate about it. If you are naturally passionate about what you do, you don't have to fake it. You don't have to pretend that you are passionate about it. It will come in naturally in you. So to recap, two things. One, ensure that you are clear about the concept. Two, ensure that you have the passion and confidence and you convey that. So hope that I answered. Oh, by the way, the computer science question that I was asked when I joined UST by the interview panelist, one of the questions I still remember, and I still ask to many people when I interview them, they asked me, "Do you have a computer at home?" I said yes. And what is it? Is it a laptop or a desktop? At that time, laptop was just getting trend was just getting started. So I said I have a desktop. Okay, and what do you have in the desktop? Then I said like CPU, monitor, keyboard, mouse, etc. Okay, then if I open your CPU, what are the things I'll see? Then I said, I'll see motherboard, the fan, and the SMPS, all the cables going around. So he went deeper and deeper. Remember, what the interviewer is trying to do is he's trying to do understand three things. One, to an extent, do you understand computers and computer hardware? But that is not the primary purpose. The primary purpose is when you are given a complex question, do you surrender and give up saying that, oh my goodness, I don't know this, I don't want to answer, and pass saying that, no, I don't know, sir? Or do you at least make an attempt? Then, if you have good clarity, hey, give me 1 second, okay? Sorry, yeah. So I was just giving a simple example. So only if you have very good clarity, only if you are strong with your concept, you will be able to crack the interview. So to recap, ensure that you're strong with your concept, and also you show a little bit of passion and confidence.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so I think it is the end. So the last question is only few get placed. What can we do to improve?
Okay. So again, what I would do, what I would suggest is this is a question we have partially answered already, but we are going to cover those in detail tomorrow. Uh, uh, the point which I already mentioned, we'll cover. Maybe I'll defer this question to tomorrow, ma'am, because this is something we can discuss this in detail. But there is another question in the chat window that I could see. Can I go ahead and answer that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No problem.
Okay, so there are questions about starting a company of my own and also being an entrepreneur. This is a tough question, okay? Because keep in mind, when you start a company, even if you start a small business from your home, maybe some food business from your home, just by yourself, keep in mind there are a lot of things you need to take care of. Your your financials, the legal part, how you brand your company product, how you go and sell these products, a lot of this. So one thing you need to keep in mind while starting a company, maybe that is the only thing I would suggest. There is a lot more than just technical expertise. to start a company, because if you are starting a company, you are, irrespective of how small that company is, maybe you are the only person working in that company, still you are the CEO of that company, the chief executive officer. So just developing that product is not alone your job, but marketing that product, taking care of the financials, ensuring that you become profitable, taking care of all the legal registration, all those aspects. There are a lot of things associated with that. But keep in mind, you are not alone. There are a lot of people who want to pursue startup as a career, and there are like startup incubators and startup ecosystems and etc. being created by the government and even private organizations. There are startup incubators, etc., who come and guide you, and there are definitely a lot of startup mentoring happening in the industry. They will help you on this. But this is something you need to keep in mind, because when you start a company, one thing you need to keep in mind is, if you are somebody who's truly passionate about, say, for example, if you are somebody who's an actor, who's truly passionate about acting, and you start a movie production house, a lot of your time will be spent on financials, legals, distributions, etc. Likewise, if you are somebody who's only passionate about technical part, coding, technology, etc., keep in mind, if you start your own company, you will be able to spend only a percentage of your time for the actual hardcore technical work. The rest of the time you will have to spend in taking care of the sales and marketing, HR, finance, all those things. So only if you have such a interest, widespread interest in all these things, you should venture into starting a company. I'm again not talking about the competency and skills, because that is something you can acquire through this startup mentors and the startup incubation system, etc. But I'm talking about your interest and passion. Are you interested in sales and marketing? Are you interested in finance? Are you interested in HR? Are you interested in people management? Only then you should get into a startup. I hope I answered that question. Any
Yes,
more?
no, in the chat box, that much the question was. I didn't think so. Anything is there. Okay. So I think we can wind up this section.
Sure.
Okay. So first of all, I thank Vinod sir and Tansen for providing this much time with us and providing the valuable information to all the participants, as well as the participants. I think they are really hungry with that time is 1 o'clock. So one thing I want to notice to the participants is that a feedback form of the day one is circulated in your chat box as well as in your WhatsApp group. So please try to fill that feedback form, because that feedback form is required so that you will get your e-certificate. So today we have the feedback form. So day one feedback form is circulated. So day two will be circulated tomorrow. So I hope all of you will be there for the tomorrow section. So see you at sharp 10:30. The link will be shared in your WhatsApp group as well as in your mail. Thank you to all. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Tansen, for attending, for providing this much information for us.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Meet you all tomorrow. Looking forward to meet you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vinod sir, thank you once
Thank
again.
you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Wait.